Hey everyone, here's a quick overview video of everything to do with projects in TimeHero. So to see your projects and folders, it's just this little icon on the side here that says projects. And from here you get to kind of the root level of all of your projects and folders within your team. So I'm going to create a new project. And projects are really useful to organize tasks, kind of giving you a macro control over the work you're trying to do. So I'm going to create a new project and call it new page on acme.com. And I'm going to pick a color. Let's make it purple. I'm going to set the start date to next week and the due date to the end of next week. And TimeHero actually considers these dates when it plans tasks. So even if the tasks have kind of start date and due date or no start date and due date, TimeHero will use the project start and due date to kind of control when those tasks schedule for each user that they're assigned to. I'm going to set the owner as myself, just so that everyone on my team knows that it's my responsibility to move work forward in this project. For sharing, I'm going to share it with everyone. I'm not going to add a description now, but if you wanted to add a description, here's where you'd add things like relevant links or links to relevant documents, any additional information about the project. I can star it, which makes it appear in my starred projects view here, or I can add any relevant files to the project. And I'm actually going to add and import some tasks. So what I'm going to do here, this is kind of our way of quickly adding tasks to a new project in TimeHero. So I'm just going to add a few tasks. I'm going to say design for 2 hours, and I'm going to assign that to Mara, just using @Mara. I'm going to say review for 30 minutes, and that one's going to be for me, so I can just leave myself out there. And I'm going to say add to website for 1 hour, and I'm going to assign this one to Jan. So you can see that the text turned blue, meaning that TimeHero picked up the duration and the assignees for these tasks. And I'm going to create this project. So you can see here that TimeHero has created the project with the 3 tasks that I've added. And right now it was scheduling, and it just planned the tasks for July 1st and July 2nd. So starting on the start date of the project. You can see the tasks are each assigned to the relevant person. What I need to do though, just to make sure if anything else comes up, I want to make sure that these tasks schedule in the right order. And to do that, I'm going to link the tasks. So I'm going to set just the start date, and I'm going to go create link. And what this does is it sets this review task start date to be immediately after design. And I can change this. I can say 1 day, 2 days after design. I'm actually just do 1 day after design, just to give it a little bit of breathing room. So say review starts 1 day after design, save that link, and then TimeHero goes through and reschedules that task here. And you can see it's rescheduled to July 2nd. So now that task, no matter what happens, if the design task gets rescheduled for whatever reason, the review task will kind of follow it along and start 1 day after it. I'm going to do the same to add to website, just the same add link. I'm going to say 1 day after review. So now I have 3 tasks that are linked all in order, and no matter what happens with this design task, if I want to, for example, open up this task and snooze it until July 2nd, just because I know that Mara is going to be busy on July 1st, for example, I can close that. TimeHero will reschedule it. And you can see that TimeHero has rescheduled these tasks accordingly. You can see that even though the start date is July 3rd, TimeHero is scheduled for July 4th in my calendar, likely because I have other things going on July 3rd that day, but everything's still set to be done by July 5th, which is the due date of the project. So I'm actually going to create an event as well, and I'm going to do that by using this context menu up here, and I'm going to insert above this task an event. I'm going to say this is a kickoff meeting, and this is going to be, let's say, on Friday at, let's go 2 p.m. And you can see even when creating events, you can kind of use this natural language to tell TimeHero when you want the event to be. So I'm going to add that. And then I can actually link this design task now to this event. So we only want this task to start after the event. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to say I can start immediately after the kickoff meeting. And that's linked. And now we've got a full project all linked together. If I want to edit the tasks, I can do it right from this list. I can change the start date, the due date, the work estimate, just by clicking in here, using the handy drop-down options. Same thing with due date if I want to reassign it, just by clicking the assignee, or clicking the priority option here. And TimeHero does consider priority when scheduling tasks. If I want kind of a lot more details about the task, I can click the task name to open task details. And so this is the details of the task. We're going to add a description. I have a lot of the same controls as what I had in the list, with a few extra ones like snooze, which you saw me do earlier. I can toggle off AI scheduling in case I want to manually plan the task. I have controls over splitting, and I can do a bunch of other things as well. There's also the task activity feed, which I'll get into in a later video when it comes to working with a team. But this is basically showing all of the history of the task, when it was created, any comments, any file uploads. We also aggregate all the files uploaded into this Files tab. So if I add a file here, I go to my desktop, upload a file, you can see that now I have a file in this task. I can click it, I can open it, and anyone can see this file. If they're working on the task or if they're commenting on the task, they can also access this file. I have subtasks, which are basically just a checklist of things to do for this design task. And then I have my log tab, which is basically just kind of showing a history and future of all of the work that's been either completed or scheduled for the task. So as I complete work, I'll see entries appear under the logged heading here. And I'll see any tasks or any instances of this task planned into the future under the planned heading here. I can also edit the remaining time down here. If I want to change the project start or due date, I can change it right from here just by clicking this, or I can change it from the Details tab. And the Details tab is, it shows you the description of the project. It gives me kind of a rough overview of how many tasks have been completed, when the expected completion date is, what the total estimate is, and how much work's been completed to date. It also kind of helpfully lists any events, shows you who is able to view the project, who the owner is here, any files associated with the project, and any followers as well. Followers of the project, there's a few different options here. Basically, what this means is these people get notifications about the project on the whole, or notifications about the project and any new tasks created in the project. They'll automatically become a follower. So I can change the project start and due date. Say I want to bump it forward a week from right here, just by clicking it. I can change the start date to July 8th, due date to July 12th, save that. Then you can see TimeHero has gone right into rescheduling here. And you can see it's updated the expected completion date to July 11th now. If I go back to my list, you can see that TimeHero has scheduled all of the tasks accordingly. It didn't reschedule the event. The way TimeHero considers events are fixed in place. Nothing that you do within TimeHero, save manually changing the event date, will change when that event is planned. So events are very rigid, very stuck in place in your calendar. Another thing you can do with projects is add your own columns. So using this add column option up here, I'm just going to add a custom column, and I'm going to call this status. And I'm going to create this. And then if I just kind of scroll across here, I can see my new column. And then under the status column, I'm going to say design is in the draft 1 phase. And then what I can do with columns is if I go to board view, you can see right off the bat I have my three tasks, each listed by assignee. And I can click and drag these tasks to reassign them. I can also change how these tasks are grouped. So I can group them by assignee, by duration, and this little lock icon means that you can't drag the tasks. By priority, I can drag the tasks. I can make design a high priority task, for example. By due date, and risk level. And those are just the default columns that TimeHero gives you to kind of view your tasks by. We also let you sort things by custom columns. So if you want to move tasks in a project through custom columns of your choosing, I can move, say, this task, the review task, into draft 1. And then I can move the design task into, let's create a new column and call it draft 2. I can move the design task into draft 2. And kind of move tasks along this process as I go through my project. The Files tab, again, just shows a collection of all the files that have been uploaded to tasks within the project. You can also upload files here directly to the project, so they're not associated with any task, they're just kind of on the project level. The Gantt view gives you kind of a rough overview of how things are planned out in the project. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here, zoom back in. So you can see I have my kickoff meeting on June 28th. And then this design task is scheduled to start after the kickoff meeting. The same thing with the review task, and then add to website. So I get this kind of trickle-down version of a Gantt chart showing exactly how I expect my project to kind of play out. The timesheet gives me an overview of a lot of things. This is super powerful. So it shows me if anything's been completed, when the completion date was, how much time is remaining, how much time has been completed, and versus the original estimate of that task. So I can use the timesheet view to get a really good sense of where I'm at with a project, whether I'm over or under. We kind of tally that back up into a total up here. Any notes that you mark off when completing tasks. And you can even filter by date range here or by team members. And then we have an option to group tasks by user as well. One last thing to do with projects, I mentioned starring projects before. You'll see this little star icon up here. What this does is it kind of lets you choose your favorite projects or your projects that you need to follow on a regular basis, and puts all of those projects in a very easily accessible menu item just on the left-hand side here. So if I go to starred, you can see right here, new page on acme.com. The progress, there's been no progress made yet, but as people complete tasks, you can see, for example, with this marketing project, it's a high-risk task. It's expected to be done by Friday. 3 out of 4 tasks have been completed. There's been 1 hour and 15 minutes work logged. I can see the owner, any other details, and really easily kind of click into that project if I need to drill down to see if there are any issues or to reply to any comments or anything like that. So that's been a really brief overview of projects in TimeHero. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out just using our in-app chat down here, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks.